Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to my new playlist. And in this playlist, I'm going to cover about Webpack 4, which is just recently released, and it has a lot of new features which makes your app development very much faster. Earlier, we used to write Webpack build, and it's going to take a lot of time. It's just like doing everything, every kind of processing. So Webpack 4 is like 99% faster than whatever we were having in Webpack 3. So first we will go through what has been changed in Webpack, and then we will go one by one what are the new features in Webpack 4. So first of all, let's try to understand what Webpack is, what Webpack is providing, and how it is making the developer's life easier. Because Webpack is like a bundler, it's not a task runner, it is a bundler which is visualizing the dependencies, it is analyzing the dependency, creating the dependency graph, and creating the final build for you. No matter you are writing the AMD modules, CommonJS modules, ES6 modules, it is helping you to create your final bundle in a single file. You are writing a lot of different stuff in JavaScript, TypeScript, you are putting CSS, you are putting sass, everything it is combining inside a single bundle. So let's get started. So first of all, we will just try to understand what are the different module patterns in JavaScript, because our objective is we will be writing some JavaScript apps either using AMD, CommonJS, Common UMD or ES6 modules. Then finally, once our application is there, we need to generate the final build using Webpack. So Webpack is supporting all different kind of module pattern in JavaScript. So how CommonJS, you might be familiar with this more because all the Node.js code you are using this require syntax, require Redis, require React, require Bootstrap, right? And while exporting this, we are declaring this module so that it can be used outside this particular file. Similarly, we have AMD asynchronous module definitions where we are loading these modules in asynchronous way using XSR call. If we combine both AMD and CommonJS, then things will look like this. We are actually asynchronously loading the synchronous modules. When it comes to the ES6 and TypeScript, then this module import export syntax comes into the picture. And here we are using TypeScript, and this syntax is pretty much common. We are using import and this is export. So these patterns define how we can write the JavaScript code using different module pattern. So once we get started and try to combine all these module pattern, or whenever we try to manage the dependencies of a different software, you can say different packages, then the picture look like this, because we are not managing them in that way that we can keep all of them together. So then it become a challenging task how we can manage it. And we already know that every library is different in its nature. So how can we fix this particular problem? There are different ways of fixing this particular problem, so we will talk one by one. So here comes Webpack. Webpack is module bundler, first of all, not a task runner. So what Webpack is doing, Webpack is managing all different kind of dependencies. It is analyzing and creating the dependency graph for us, and in that dependency graph we have a multiple libraries, and then after analyzing the dependency graph, it is finally creating us the final bundle. So you might have encountered somewhere in the development that how the Webpack config look like, but this is the core syntax, how it look like. It has an entry point, it has an output point, and it has some module loaders. So this is Webpack config, this is how it will look like. And what it has, it needs your entry point, your root module of the complete applications written in Angular or React or Vue.js, and the output definition, because you will be providing some input file which is just the root of your application. It will be generating the output bundles, okay, and there will be some processing happens after you receive the file from the entry point, like these are the module loaders I am using. So Webpack is actually a CLI tool. You just need to install Webpack CLI and you're good with that. So in next few videos, I will be talking specifically about Webpack 4, what are the new things, what has changed and how it is more useful than Webpack 3. So Webpack is just like a CLI tool where you can just provide your entry file and your result file. Okay, so Webpack is actually a bundler. So in the entry file, you are just giving some entry point and is giving you this result.js output. Similarly, Webpack Dev Server is another tool on top of Webpack which will give you a final bundle, and it will also host your application on some port. Okay, so there are different ways of using Webpack. You might have seen the different variants of Webpack config. Like with Node APIs, if you wanted to use a Webpack, you need to require the CommonJS module Webpack and then these kind of definitions. So the core concept of Webpack is the entry point. Entry point decides which file or which particular set of files, because there can be multiple entries, which particular file set of files need to be processed, need to be looked into. So your entry file is like this, which can be like main.ts in your Angular app, which has the definition of app component.ts. App component.ts further has the import of other external libraries. Some like app component.ts has a code which is saying import bootstrap from bootstrap, import react from react library, or something like that. So an entry file which is like which can be main.ts has every single definition of application, right? So we need to just give this entry point to the application like this. So in Webpack config, we just provided that browser.main.ts is the entry point, and then core concepts look like this, like how the browser.main.ts look like. It's just importing Angular core and bootstrapping it. It can be React app, it can be Vue.js app, but the syntax will vary, but the concept will remain same. We need to have one common entry point. So first of all, what the entry point is telling? It tells Webpack what files need to load to the browser and what files need to be processed. Similarly, there is output point. So output is like we will be generating the output build. So output definition look like this. It's just like we put an entry. Similarly, we are putting one output here. Here we just need to provide a path that in which particular file you want to generate the output bundle. So like in Angular we have a dist folder, in React we can have a build folder, something like that, and bundle.js. So it will be processing this input entry and it will be generating the output bundle.js after analyzing all the dependencies and all. So output tells Webpack where and how the distributed bundles should be kept. It's not talking about processing. It is just like you need to have one entry point and just put an output directory, and so it will put the final bundle inside output directory. Now finally comes to the loaders, which are actually a processing unit. So Webpack is like a computer: input, processing unit, and output. So input and output we have talked about. Now what is a processing unit? Which are the loaders? So this will be another tag in the Webpack config.js, which is the loaders. In the loaders, we will say, okay, I have a .ts file, use this particular loader to and process that TypeScript code. I have the .js code written in ES6, use this babel loader and process my code. I have a .css file also, so use the CSS loader to process it and finally give me the single output file. So there are different ways of doing it. So common syntax look like this of loaders. How loaders look like. So you need to have a test where you can just provide your syntax extension of the file. It can be .ts, .js, .css, .sass, anything, because we are actually loading those files only, and there can be multiple loaders for different file syntax. I will be using CSS loader for .css file. I will be using a babel loader for .js files. I will be using TypeScript loader for .ts files. Okay, so text is regular expression, next is a string loader name. If you have multiple loaders, pass them in an array string. Okay, we can also put a include and exclude, like you can exclude some not modules, we can exclude the spec files, all these things. Now, what is a core concept here we are talking about? Because we might be having multiple loaders. One is a babel loader, one is CSS loader, one is sass loader, one is a file loader, raw loader. So these are different loaders will be there. Some folders will be loading JSON, some folders will be loading HTML, some folders will be loading JS, TypeScript. So how these are getting processed? So it look like this. So here is a chain of commands we are executing. So it's like style.css is being executed by last loader, then it is being applied as CSS loader, then it is being applied style loader. And finally, you got this bundle.js. Okay, so the core concepts and how many loaders are there, you can see there are thousands of loader available. So loaders tells Webpack how to intercept and translate files. They returns the compilations. Now another important thing is the plugins. After plugin we will take a pause and we will just talk more about the existing stuff and we will move to the next video. So the core concept of plugin is just like these are just the additional functionality we are trying to apply onto the compilation level. So there are many loaders like Webpack, I like hot module loader, hot module plugin is there, or HMR is there, or HTML5 Webpack plugin is there. So there may be multiple plugins you have used. So what this is doing, so this is the basic plugin example. What it is doing, it is actually a plugin in ES5 class which implements an apply function. So and compiler is using this plugin to emit an event. So this is like custom plugin you have written, and the name of the plugin is Balon Bundler Error plugin, right? So whenever compiler, so this is like custom plugin you have written here. You just define a functions and define a prototype on top of that, and now you are exporting it. Now you will use it in your Webpack config like this. So in the there is a plugin array. So like uglify plugins, minify.js plugin is common chunk plugin, common split chunk plugin is there. So like there are loaders, right? So similarly we have a plugins. Plugins are actually doing some stuff on top of compilation. So like uglify is uglifying the JavaScript, minifying the final bundle. Common chunk plugin is actually creating a separate chunk for the vendor dependencies, or HTML5 Webpack plugin is actually extracting, so putting your final bundles into the script tag of your index.html. So there is actually a huge list of plugins out there, and we can take a look. So these are the core concepts we have talked about. So plugins adds additional functionality to the compilation, like optimizing the bundle, doing the split chunk, creating the chunk for the lazy load modules, or once the bundle is there, just put that in the script tag of index.html. So let's see more onto this Webpack in the next video.